Today we are going to be learning 4 different ways to make value. To review, our last skill builder was all about value. What is value? The relative lightness or darkness of a color. And then we shaded from darkest to lightest and tried 2 different times to practice shading from dark to light. Now today we are going to try 4 new techniques. You will use a pencil for these because you're just practicing and it would be awesome to be able to erase if you make any mistakes. I'm going to use a pen because I have more practice and so you can see it a little better in your video. When you are really going to make art with these techniques, a pen or one of these thin Sharpies would be your best option. Alright, so here we go. Hatching is our first one. So it's drawing lines side by side to create value. So what we're going to do, it doesn't matter what direction your lines go, you just want them all to be going parallel to each other. So I'm going to start and I'm going to make darkest to lightest. Just like the value skill builder, it doesn't have to be the most neat and in the box. We're not practicing coloring in the lines with this, we are just practicing new techniques. So if it's a little easier for you to go outside of the lines, even I am, so definitely by all means, especially with your pencil, you could erase around the edges afterwards. So I am going from the closest lines together I can make in this corner to make the darkest value, and then I'm slowly separating my lines and giving them some more space in between them until I'm at the end where I'm just coming to white. So I'm going from darkest to lightest, just using lines. Our second one is cross hatching. So this is like hatching, but after you draw your lines side by side, you are drawing lines perpendicular to those marks to create a checkerboard design. So I'm going to do the exact same thing I just did on that one and make my lines really close together. And then slowly start separating them until I'm at white. And then I find it easiest to turn my paper and I'm going to go perpendicular to these lines. So it doesn't have to be perfectly perpendicular, but I usually kind of make a guideline so I don't start going too crooked. And my lines to this far side are going to be really close together. And then just like my other lines, they're going to slowly get farther apart. I always look back again and say, okay, it's getting actually a little darker right there, so I need to darken up this very corner again to make a darker value. And then maybe I'll do it again one more time this way until I feel like I am gradually going from a dark value to white. Alright, the third one is stippling, which is using many dots to create values. So you could, if you'd like to challenge yourself and spend some time on this, use your pencil or pen that I'm using. But what I'm going to say might be your best bet today, just as you're practicing, is using a thick-tipped marker. It just saves a little bit of time instead of all the small little pencil marks. So with stippling, I am putting a lot of dots close together to make my dark value, and then I'm slowly putting my dots farther apart until I am out here with very big gaps in between. And then I'll come back and fix these ones, get rid of some of those gaps. This one actually takes a little bit of time, so if you keep going with that and going from light to dark, you will end up with something like this. Going from darkest to lightest. Our last one is called scumbling, which is drawing in a circular or random motion to create value. It can look like scribbling. So this one's a lot quicker than the stippling, and all you're doing is making random either circular patterns or they can be more of just some random scribbles. You want them really close together to make a dark value, and then slowly making the scribbles farther and farther apart. and I feel like I still don't have enough of a gradual change right here, so I will come back and darken right here and then add some more in here to make that gradually go from darkest to lightest. So those are 4 different techniques that you can try today. If this is something you are super interested in and you know that you would really like to make different types of value in drawings, what I would suggest your first step would be is doing something like this. If you make spheres, they're one of the easiest ways to start learning how to make different values, because you have your darkest part of your sphere and your lightest spot, and it slowly, gradually goes up, so you can practice going from darkest to lightest. I will put this above the drawing center along with this, so that you always have these as a reference from now until the end of the year to look at if this is something that interests you. Lastly, I just wanted to show you a couple of examples of how this might look in drawings. So here's a couple drawings of hands using cross-hatching and hatching. Here is an example of just hatching with a cherry and an apple. See how all the lines are all going the same way? You're just changing up how far apart they are. Here are some cross-hatching examples. It could be something as simple as just putting the cross-hatching where the shadows of a rose are, or something a little more complicated with different values like this eyeball. Here is some stippling examples of how you could add them to different types of drawings to make the different values. And here are a couple scumbling examples, making that scribble-like motion to make those. And lastly, you could definitely combine 2 of these techniques and use cross-hatching here and stippling here, or you could use all 4 in a drawing, or anything you would like that would work in your own art. So that is the 4 different ways to make value. Now go practice.